brought to you by the Mariana Outdoorsman Association and by Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Now, the Great Outdoors with Jason White.
Hello, friends. I'm Jason White. Welcome to the Great Outdoors. Special thanks today, as always, to our sponsors, the Mariana Outdoorsman Association, Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds, and Washington County Tourism and Promotion Agency. Certainly, we couldn't do what we do without them. My wingman today is Daryl Becker, president of the Fayette County Farm Bureau, and we have an exciting show for you all. A topic that I know we've been discussing, I would say, very religiously here over the past few months. But we're going to have a deep discussion today about Sunday hunting in the state of Pennsylvania, and I'm sure probably some other topics. But I want to welcome our guests. We have two guests today. Kevin Askew is the executive director of Hunters United for Sunday Hunting, also known as Hush. Kevin works with sportsmen, conservationists, the Pennsylvania legislature, and other interested parties on the intent to educate, inform, and drive the understanding and benefit of eliminating Sunday hunting prohibition blue law that currently exists in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And also our other guest, Doug Lapp, agricultural liaison to Hush. Doug helps with the necessary guidance to the agricultural community, as well as assisting with the legislative and educational efforts to bring 7-day-a-week hunting to Pennsylvania for the benefits of sportsmen and agriculture alike. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Jason. We hope that we can provide some insight in some of this stuff.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure to have you. Can you guys just go ahead and talk a little bit more about Hush and what you guys do, and and what kind of the goals collectively moving forward?
Yeah, I can handle that. This is Kevin Askew. I'm the executive director for Hunters United for Sunday Hunting, and we've been working to bring 7-day-a-week hunting since 2018. There's always been an effort in Pennsylvania to have hunting on Sunday available. It's been a 50-year fight. Back in 2019, we were able to get the 3 days that we currently experience, the one in archery season, the one in rifle season, and one at the Game Commission's discretion. We're looking to expand on that and just eliminate this blue law and give the Game Commission the authority to set seasons and bag limits that would include Sunday.
Well, that certainly is fantastic, and I certainly appreciate your efforts. I know that we've been talking a lot, not only on this show, but even within the Farm Bureau to get some changes made. And I know personally, this was one of the big sticking points for me of why I wanted to get more engaged and involved in the Farm Bureau, because seeing such a decline across the Commonwealth with the number of young people getting out in the outdoors, and certainly I think it's fact, the more opportunities you give people, the more likely they're to engage and to use these different outdoor activities. But Doug, I know you have an agricultural background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and also what do you got going on in regards to Sunday hunting? Is Doug on? We don't have Doug.
You don't have Doug? No. Okay.
Nope, no Doug. Alrighty.
No Doug?
Well,
all right.
That's all right. Well, if he calls
we
in...
can try to you want me to try to conference him in? I can do that.
That would be okay. This is Daryl, by the way. Hi, Kevin. How you doing? I never met you before, but I'm hoping I will sometime soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice, and I'll preface this. It's really nice to see persons of you guys wanting to tackle this from within the Farm Bureau, because, the Farm Bureau is the major opposition to bringing 7-day-a-week hunting to Pennsylvania. We have come a long way since 2018 to the relationship of hate for one another to the relationship, hey, let's work together. And I commend guys like you and Jason who are willing to step up and do that.
Well,
It's really been a big help.
well, thank you. I got to tell you that you as the leader of the group should know that there is the last time we discussed this Sunday hunting, it was probably the most divisive discussion we've had in a long time, and it took half a day just to get through all the speeches and talks and everything else that's going on. And I will tell you, my opinion is that at that meeting, it was about 50-50, maybe 60-40 against Sunday hunting. There's been a lot of change take place. I should probably tell you, just as an FYI, that in Fayette County, we had sent a questionnaire out via email about whether the membership was pro or anti-Sunday hunting, and although the numbers that responded were less than what I would have hoped, that there was not a single vote against Sunday hunting. So we are actively promoting a number of issues, Sunday hunting being one of them. As you well know, Sunday hunting is not the only solution to deer depredation for farmers. And I am excited as well as you in that it's about time that we work together and have the political force that can be thrown by both organizations, because look, farmers hunt and hunters farm. So it's both.
Well, there's definitely, and that's what Kevin and you and I talked about this before. I came at this personally with a different perspective because I grew up on a dairy farm and a beef farm, and whenever I started the Marion Outdoorsman Association when I was 18 years old, I really got into the trout farms and dealing with those folks. Opening a game preserve, I got into the pheasant farms and dealing with those folks. I also do guided deer hunts. I also manage a farm where we plant crops. So I've been kind of blessed to have a lot of diversity with my agriculture and also my outdoor background. So for me, there are so many benefits to Sunday hunting, but I've also been extremely open-minded to listen to people's thoughts and ideas that have been against it. And, Doug Lapp is also associated with the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau. I know he's not on a call right now, but Doug's with Chester,
Delaware. Two counties joined. Chester,
so
Delaware.
He's the president of Chester and Delaware, and I know that they had passed policy this year in favor of Sunday hunting, and in regards to collaborative efforts, we in Fayette County pushed and passed the same exact policy. So when we go to Harrisburg here in November for our policy votes in regards to the Farm Bureau, right out of the gate, we got 3 counties already on the same page, and then hopefully it will grow, because I can tell you, Kevin, there's been a lot of great discussions had, and there's been a lot of other discussions regards to a lot of other topics, and I think that those are things that you could be helpful with, and I think even other organizations and entities, because obviously you and I had this discussion before about the number of tags that are given out, like trying to get better information on how many deer actually there are, what's being harvested, getting a better grasp on that, and not just deer. I mean, that goes to other wildlife as well when you're talking about conservation. And then you're also talking about the economic benefits to the state of Pennsylvania for tourism. I know I do guided deer hunts, and when people like to come in, they like to come in when that Sunday is an option. That way they can get a 3-day weekend out of it to do a 3-day hunt. So,
Kevin, let me give you a little background on internal policy. I mean, what has happened is that Doug in Chester, Delaware passed A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. All of these requirements that basically say we recommend Pennsylvania Farm Bureau support Sunday hunting if PFB policy priorities are included in the legislation, such as, and every one of the following that is enlisted in that is already in our handbook, okay? So this is basically to take away all the arguments, and our annual meeting, which is where resolutions are passed that get sent to the state. Like Jason said, it duplicated exactly what came out of Chester, Delaware. And Jason and I are scheduled to go to Harrisburg on the 26th of this month to put forth the policies from Fayette County that will be the same as the policies from Chester, Delaware. So we'll have a little bit of traction at that meeting. And if these policy resolutions go through that committee, it then goes to the state floor, and we will have our state meeting on the 12th of November to the 15th of November, and that's where we will bring this up in resolutions that will be discussed by the entire body. So we are optimistic. I mean, and we're getting closer every year, so, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned your meetings and everything at the Farm Bureau that happens annually. The biggest thing that has been worked on since 2018 is the ability for the Farm Bureau to actually negotiate. Prior to 2018 in this fight, the policies that would be issued by the Farm Bureau would be a hard, no, we're not doing that. I've had meetings, and I understand these people are no longer with the Farm Bureau. Darren Euchre, and he was the lobbyist. In the meetings, he would always say, well, what part of no don't you understand? Well, that's not a proper approach to get things done, So what would happen is that the PFB would go into their corner, and us hunters would go into our corner, and then we'd come out and be a boxing match, and we'd keep continuing to do that. So,
well, personally, I would hope that we get to the point where that ceases, because excuse me for interrupting you, but let me tell you that a lot has happened since that time. And there's a movement within the Farm Bureau that, listen, I'm a hunter, and there are a lot of people, and they are moving to some form that's beyond the 3 days that Sunday hunting is now. I'm not going to promise you that this is going to be done this year, but there's a big movement afoot. And one of the things that I got to tell you is when there's negative comments made about the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau in regards to Sunday hunting, it hurts people like me and even Doug, because then that just hardens their position. I think we're going to move. Okay, so just take that for what it's worth.
And I get what you're saying, but a lot of those comments are deserved, and I'll use 1300, HB 1300, and President Chris Hoffman as an example. He has the comment out there that, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's something to the effect of, hunters, before giving money to something else, the Game Commission should give it for crop damage. Well, that's just wrong. We're having a conversation about how to help with crop damage, and coming up with another subsidy on hunters' back is not the way to do it. So, when comments come out like that, there's going to be a little bit of backlash, and well-deserved backlash.
Well, let me tell you.
I can dive into this one very deep, because I just had something pop. Oh, Doug's on. Hey, welcome, Doug. Happy to have you. I want to. I had a discussion actually yesterday with USDA specifically about this topic, so I'm glad that we're talking about it. The problem here is that the appropriate people involved in these discussions are in my committee. I'm with the Wildlife and Fishery Committee with the Farm Bureau. So the people that are like the most knowledgeable about these topics, or at least as best, I would say the most knowledgeable within Farm Bureau, would be the people that are dealing with it month to month. I mean, Daryl can attest. I'm constantly on the phone talking to people, asking people for ideas. And I myself, prior to even being involved with Farm Bureau, I've done outdoor expos for years. So I've been out doing basically person-to-person surveys for years. And in regards to this subsidy idea, the solution is this. This is the solution to this problem. USDA has an extreme involvement when it comes to anything federal. So, especially, I know this conversation isn't about depredation at a federal level, but there is a tremendous amount of involvement there. When it comes to crop damage in other states, the USDA gets monies allocated federally through the federal budget. So instead of sending money to all these other countries, we could be, putting money towards USDA, and then that money would be for the issues herein, not taking it out of the state budget or any of the state monies. But that has to be handled congressionally, but we have to talk about it first. We all need to be on the same page to move in that direction to do what's already being done successfully in other states. But unless it's presented to our congressmen for them to act on it, they're not going to put it in as a bill or in the budget line items. So it's totally a moot point if we don't present it to the right people. And us all arguing, fighting, and then bickering over the same pots of money is clearly not the solution, because the solution is what I'm saying is there's success stories here in other states where USDA is involved in this process. But currently they're not in Pennsylvania. And I just had this conversation yesterday because I got a federal permit for hawk depredation, and my permit says that I'm supposed to partner with USDA, and they're supposed to come out and basically help trap and relocate these hawks. Well, they don't even have money budgeted in their budget to even work with me as a farmer to do that, and that's part of what the permit requirement is. So there really needs to be a discussion about a federal level when it comes to this depredation issue. But until we get better, and then the other issue that came up, Kevin, was about the data. And I told the
which
people,
we have none,
which our data is pretty bad. And I said to the gentleman from USDA, I said, I'm just really against the permitting processes. And he's like, well, it's good to have these other eyes looking at things. And I said, I do not have a personal issue when it's an intelligent decision. I said, but when somebody does not have good data, you can't make an intelligent decision. You're making an ignorant decision. And I said, and if we're just going to bog down the farmers, the outdoorsmen, etc., with extra layers and layers of bureaucracy based upon ignorant decisions, I said, I can't justify that. I said, I can't back it up. I said, because we just had a meeting recently with the Game Commission, and they flat out say they do not have good data in regards to the deer reporting of the state, and also wildlife numbers within the state, and that goes well beyond deer. But that in its own regard is a whole big conversation that can be addressed. And Kevin, I know you and I talked about this, about little ideas like just giving people the option of a cell phone app to report, hey, I saw a bobcat here, hey, I saw a black bear here, or hey, a blue heron, bald eagle, whatever it may be, deer. We don't have that right now. We have it for the spotted lanternfly, but not wildlife.
Hi, Doug. Sterl, how you doing? Doug, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. We're challenge born today.
Well, hey, listen, that's great. We had our annual meeting on the 11th, and we passed the exact same duplicate language of number 5, where we recommend PFB support Sunday hunting. So I'm looking forward to seeing your representative on the 26th to push this forward to the floor at the state level. And Kevin, let me tell you that I can assure you that Fayette County is at the forefront of some of these fights, and Doug and I have talked several times. We have already met with our 2 legislators and our state senator, and in fact, the chief of staff for one of our legislators has done a documented thing about red tags, where she got every farm that has a red tag permitted. So we're trying to begin the process of collecting data, but I think Jason's right. Until we have data, we're kind of like hunting in the dark, so to speak. I would say that I look forward to a possible follow-up from this radio show where we can sit and talk and discuss these things, hopefully prior to our annual meeting, and we can talk about that later. But I will tell you that the biggest vegetable grower in Fayette County is already filed Chapter 12, and their second crop of sweet corn was absolutely decimated by deer, and we've had the secretary of that farm. We've been really pushing these issues. So let's not get discouraged. Let's just keep moving forward.
Well, and those are the stories that we can have all the conversations we want, but the reality is the politicians in Pennsylvania are the ones who are not helping the farmers or the agriculturalists or the Farm Bureau in the ability to have hunters on person's property who wants them there when they have the time to do it. And what I'm saying is that study after study shows that people will hunt if they have time. They have time on the weekends to hunt. But here in Pennsylvania, we are limited to only hunting those 3 days a week. A farmer can't even take advantage of the red tag program on a Sunday because hunting on Sunday is illegal. Now, if we were to allow the Game Commission and if the politicians would vote Senate Bill 67 into law, the Game Commission very well may only say, look, the deer, we can only allow hunting for red tags on Sunday because deer can't support it. Just because Sunday hunting becomes available doesn't mean it's going to be on every Sunday. What we are asking is for it to be managed by the agency that does it, the Game Commission. And when that is given to the Game Commission, it helps everyone. But the problem is the education to the farmers, and it comes back to what we were talking at the beginning of the show. Many of the politicians still have the old hat mindset where the PFB doesn't want this. And that's a struggle. That's really a struggle to get through. And statements that, as I mentioned earlier, from your president, Chris Hoffman, doesn't help the situation either. It exaggerates it, where, he could come out and say, look, we got to fix this, and helping get 7-day-a-week hunting is a way to do it. Saying taking our money is a way, I just can't get there. But to answer one of your other points, how we're working together, what we have done here on the hunting side, and specifically Hunter Nation has done this, they have taken guidance from the Pennsylvania Game Commission, hunters, and guidance from the PFB on what they would vote for and accept in the way of trespass. Now, trespass and Sunday hunting has always been tied together, and there's no way around that. So understanding that, what Hunter Nation and the Game Commission did in listening to the Farm Bureau is taken a bill and asked, it's currently sitting on Perry Stambaugh's desk, and he is writing the language as we speak. And what that language will consist of is a first offense for trespass will be a fine of $250 to $500. A second offense will be a fine of $1,000 to $3,000 and a loss of license for a year. And the third offense will be a fine of $2,500 to $5,000, loss of license for 3 years, and up to 1 year in prison. Now, that is substantial increase in trespass. The last I looked at what the Farm Bureau is asking, this is more than what you guys are asking for. So we're helping you in the way of trespass, and I and other conservationists and hunters are, hoping that you guys reciprocate in the Sunday hunting space.
Kevin, the document that we are taking to be put on the state floor, number 6, the Farm Bureau recommends making all trespassing a criminal act, increasing penalties, and the closest law enforcement officer respond to a call for criminal trespass. I'm a landowner, okay? Mm-hmm. To me, if you come on my property, that's no difference than you coming into my house. It's trespass. So the laws should be geared accordingly. So I heartily endorse what you're saying, and we think that we all know what the problems are here. We got one game guy that's for 3 counties. You call him, you're lucky you get him in 3-4 days. You know, if you grab this guy to hold him by the ear until the guy gets here, maybe you'll have something done. But yes, we agree that criminal trespass needs to be enforced and enhanced. So we're on the same page there.
Kevin, I will say that the biggest thing that we need for November, and this is something I would hope you would help us with, is we approved and voted on the same exact policy that Douglas County did, counties. So if there are any of those line items that you know that there is existing legislation that's pending, or if things are being acted on, anything that we could go as ammunition to reinforce that, hey, these things are being addressed or they're being talked about, because that's what we need at the end of the day. Because when I've been in my committee meetings, some of these fellas just believe that nothing's being done. And if I don't have good information, again, data, information, etc., to give to them, I can't really give them a counter argument.
Yeah, well, I can tell you for sure with 100% accuracy that this is currently being worked by Mr. Perry Stambaugh of Perry County. What he is doing with this bill is he's looking at all the places that this touches and seeing how a law can be written that affects those places. I don't know what the end product's going to look like, but that's what he's doing right now.
Kevin, when this is completed, would you be kind enough to send me a copy so that I can lobby my own legislators and we can develop some traction on this?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, the person responsible for this in Pennsylvania is John Benjamin. He works for Hunter Nation, and he is having a meeting next week with Perry Stambaugh to discuss this and discuss when this bill will be available. When it's available, I will make sure that I get Doug a copy and I send Jason a copy.
That's fine. When Jason gets it, I'll get it. So thank you.
Yeah, please feel free to send it to me. Because
And you know, not to interrupt you, Jason, but you know, again, going back to our earlier conversation, we would not have been able to do this without the work of guys like yourself, Daryl, and Doug in bringing the Farm Bureau to a more of a calm point and saying, look, none of us are the enemy. We have a common goal here. Let's work together. We would never have gotten this without the communication and the input for you guys, and we would have never been able to present it to a politician in that matter without the work that you guys have done.
And we're traveling the same road right now. And, you know, this last year, the Fayette County Farm Bureau kind of cooperated with Jason, and at the outdoor show at the Monroeville Mart, we were there jointly. We showed that we're working together, and we need to continue to do that because that's how we're going to be successful.
I will say I've been an adamant proponent of bridging gaps and listening to each other, and at the end of the day, whether we all want to admit it, this is politics when you're in regards to these changes, and this is chess, not checkers. You're not going to always win everything that you want to get, and the best that we can do is to try our very best, but also listen to each other and try to incorporate each other's ideas. And I feel that you'd said something earlier, Kevin, about, you know, everybody was kind of staunch in their ways, and I think that everybody now, collectively, from what I'm seeing, everybody's being a lot more open-minded, having good discussions, conversation. It's no different than, you know, this discussion about this pulling away this money in this one Senate bill. I didn't even know. I actually saw it on the internet. That's how I even found out about it. We never even discussed it internally in our committee. So, like, I got blindsided by it, and I'm starting asking people, I'm like, what is this even about? Like, what is it? What are the details of this? And I wish we knew, because I could talk very, very detailed about the fact that we're not addressing these things at a federal level as we should, and that discussion needs to be had, and we all need to bring it up. And it then stems into the whole data collection and data gathering and having better information so everybody can make good decisions. And there's a lot of things that I don't really at this point in time I do not know the surplus within the game commission, where they stand, what their ambitions and goals are with habitat. I know, Kevin, you and I talked about this recently. You could have game lands and you could invest all the money in the world in habitat, but there's a lot more acres of land that's private property in this state, and just as many, if not more, people hunt private property. So it also seems as a wise idea that the state should see private property as a valuable asset when it comes to habitat. So I mean, it's a discussion I think that certainly needs to be had. But I'm happy with the fact that everybody's talking and having these discussions and these things are coming up. But I think that needs to happen more regularly. Certainly before people say things or do things that whether it's, to your point, Kevin, people say things and maybe it's the wrong thing to be said, or maybe somebody's speaking out of turn and just doesn't really know what they're talking about, because that happens in life too. Mistakes do happen, but I think us all working together moving forward to address not only Sunday hunting, but there's a lot of other little things that we need to nip away at, whether it's trespass, whether it's just better communication, even with the agencies, having workshop meetings, data collection, so on and so forth. But I think certainly I think the future's bright the way things sit as of today.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Jason, when I started this, and I was not the executive director in 2018, but when we started down this road and this mission to bring 7-day-a-week hunting to Pennsylvania, we were told that it wasn't going to happen because of the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau. We were told that the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau would not bend, and here we are.
And where are we now? After you heard what we've said to you, where do you think we are?
Absolutely, and that's my point. That's my point.
Yes.
Because again, it's just unfair. It's an unfair law for everyone.
We agree. We agree. Let me give you a little information and ask Doug something too. Doug, I don't know who your vice president is that's going to be coming to the meeting on the 26th, but please feel free to give my phone number to him, and he can contact me before we get to that meeting so we can kind of line up our ducks, if that's okay with you. And I also got to tell you, and then I'm probably going to be done, we are scheduled on November the 8th, which is prior to our annual meeting, to meet with Washington, Westmoreland, Fayette, and Greene counties with some legislators there to talk about deer depredation and some other things. And I don't know what their agenda is because I haven't had a copy of it yet, but I can guarantee you, as sure as I'm talking to you now, that Sunday hunting will come up and we will be advocating for Sunday hunting. So we're approaching this in so many different ways and so many different fashions that I know there's going to be a change of some kind.
And to follow up on that, that's the importance of this policy that we have for this year. This is an issue that's been controversial, that we can all see the writing on the wall, that needs to change, should change, and here's how we get it done. And from a Farm Bureau standpoint, here's how we get the things we need to farm successfully with the conservation community. That's what makes this policy this year so different from years prior.
Absolutely.
This is going for everything and asking for a lot in return, but I don't think it's anything that's unreasonable. If anybody looks up and down that list, I don't think there's any hunter who would say, no, that's completely unreasonable. I think most of that list is like, yeah, okay, we can make this happen. And that's been the entire point since we started taking this approach and actually addressing this within the Farm Bureau, was there's got to be a reason. Let's figure out the reason and let's punch down this wall and actually get some movement on these issues, because from a Farm Bureau standpoint, having as many policies as we want in that little book do us no good if there's no action on them ever.
Absolutely.
And we get too bogged down in our own process that we keep making a bigger and bigger book and making less and less of an impact, because of a lack of looking at the big picture.
Well, and
Well said. Well said.
I totally agree, Doug, and I think Daryl and I have talked about this a lot. I've probably said a few choice words in regards to this conversation. That book can be as thick as it wants to be, but if we're not taking targeted items every year, and actually by us not doing that, it's fed to the argument that Kevin has had, where Kevin's saying, like people didn't want to change. Well, because none of these items that we've had in this policy book are being addressed, that has nothing to do with Sunday hunting. It's basically fed them because we kind of have sat on our hands and on our laurels for so long. I know that's not the current leadership. I know that people are wanting to change things and we're headed in a different direction. But in the past, this stuff was sitting there. It was sitting there. We could have been working on it, but it wasn't being addressed. And, that's a problem. And I've been to all these, like most of these meetings here in the past year, listening to the different conversations, and there's so many little rickety dinky things that can be addressed, and we can all work together, which would make us a force for the good.
Farmers and Hunters United. Boy, that sounds like a pretty powerful organization. Hey, Doug, I know you know that I'm not in a position to speak for Chris Hoffman, but I will tell you that in my experience as being a president for at least the last 10 years, that I think the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau is moving forward under Chris's leadership. I think there's still some people that are trying to put roadblocks up, but I'm extremely happy myself with the direction that the Farm Bureau is taking from where it was to where it is, and we just need to keep going.
Well, and that's a tribute to Chris. I mean, Chris is a go-getter. He
Absolutely.
He does not need a hype man. He is his own hype man, and that's a very good thing when you're looking for someone who's willing to drive change and drive an old organization into doing new things and looking for new pathways and new allies. And you can see that in the way that Farm Bureau has been working with the new governor. There's a lot of runway here for Farm Bureau to take chunks of this policy book and get things done. And I think the easiest is what we're working on, where we take all of our wish list of stuff to improve deer deprivation and trespass for farming, and we do a swap with Sunday hunting for hunters. And in my opinion, it's not even a swap because it helps me out as a farmer to get more deer harvested. So I mean, it's really where we need to be going as we do policy development down the road. I think we need to be doing less of what can we add to the policy book and more of what policies are in here and how do we get them accomplished and how do we package things together that will make them move better through the legislative process.
Once again, well said.
I 100% agree, and I think Sunday hunting can definitely happen. I would hope, and I'm just throwing this out there because I look at other states and how they've done it. I hope we can get it straight across the board, but at a very, very, very absolute minimum, I would hope that we at least head in the direction of West Virginia at a minimum. If you guys haven't seen what they did, they legalized Sunday hunting and then they let the actual county everybody got to vote. And it was basically a referendum on the ballot, and it went back to like county-based, we'll call them county-based units. And it took a handful of years, but eventually everything was legalized. And I know but when this all came up back in 2017, 2018, that was what I was saying, like as an alternative option if it's that controversial. But I do think, based on what I've heard within Farm Bureau, that the flat blanket is the direction that it'll go. But to Doug's point, we have to tackle some of these other issues, whether it's things like as basic as the general permit issues. Everybody complains about that. I've seen no legislation pushed or nothing being addressed. Stupid stuff like we buy fish, thousands and thousands of dollars from fish farms, but there's like a 6-week shutdown period in the state where you're not allowed to have fishing tournaments. It's one of the dumbest rules I've ever heard of. Most people probably don't even know about it, but it's one of those little dinky things that could be a positive for fish farmers and as well as travel and tourism. We have to have these conversations so we can collectively work together to start nipping away at it.
Hey, we got about 3 minutes left, so Kevin, Doug, why don't you do a 1-minute wrap, and then I will once again reiterate that we didn't need to have a follow-up meeting somewhere, sometime. Doug, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the state convention, and I'm sure we'll talk. But go ahead, you guys finish up.
Doug, I'll let you go, and then I'll take it home.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate having you guys helping me out from the western side of the state. I think there's going to be some legwork we need to do between now and the meeting in Hershey in November. But I am really, really optimistic that this package can get through and we can see a lot of things from the Farm Bureau policy book checked off, as well as making Pennsylvania a 7-day-a-week hunting state. So thank you guys for having us and for your hard work.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And, hey, guys, I want to reiterate what Doug said. Thanks for having us. We're doing everything that we can on the hunter conservation side to bring 7-day-a-week hunting to Pennsylvania. There's 30 organizations who are working towards this and want the same goal as you guys do in the Farm Bureau, is for every landowner and every hunter to have the option to hunt on Sundays. I have an open invitation to sit down with anyone at the Farm Bureau, anyone in the legislature, and anyone who is interested in this to discuss it. I will make myself available for that. I have an open invitation for that. So as you guys do your meetings, if you have any questions, you would like me to be there, Zoom, however, that invitation is out there for you. But I can tell you that there is a lot of support to have this done, and we know that the Farm Bureau members want this. You've come a long way in this, and I congratulate you guys for that, but we still have a lot of work to do, and like you said, Jason, having these conversations and working together is the way we accomplish this.
Kevin, Doug, and I both know that our work is cut out for us when we get to the convention.
Our biggest problem, not to interrupt you, our biggest problem is the politicians. Making the politicians understand that Senate Bill 67 and full regulatory authority is the way to get this done and is the way to benefit everyone.
We are going to get there, and Doug, please keep in touch with me in regards to November. Kevin, you as well. You guys you got my number. Reach out to me.
Ditto.
And I know that Daryl and I are going to do our best to go around and educate people. I do want to talk to you guys in the future about data collection and ways that we can come up with a better solution to that, and also this discussion about the federal items. But again, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank the listeners. This was a tremendous discussion. We will definitely have some follow-up shows regarding how progress is going, and also we're going to follow up about how the vote goes in November. But thank you guys. God bless. Please tune in next week for the Great Outdoors with Jason White.
And you're listening to WMBS Uniontown, PA. It's 11 o'clock.